Okay. Hello, my name is Carolina Rocha. This is an interview about Renaissance printing for the Gainesville Business History Oral History Project run by the Inquire Capitalism program of the History Department at the University of Florida. Understand that for us and for the public, the information you are providing is a gift as it is an incredible historical resource, and we dearly appreciate it. This interview will be available as part of the UF Oral History Collection and through UF Digital Collections and YouTube. Please introduce yourself. What is your full name, and could you spell it?
Sure. My name is Robert Leighton Oetter. Robert is pretty easy to spell. Leighton is Leighton, and Oetter is Oetter.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's get right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about Renaissance printing? Just a general overview.
Sure. I can tell you a lot about it, but the general overview is that we're a printing company that grew out of a copy center, that grew out of a drugstore, that began in the 60s. We've got a lot of long-term co-workers that now they're employee owners because our company is owned by the employees and has been for about 23 years. And so we service not only Gainesville, Alachua County, but multiple counties around us. We've done work for people in Connecticut and California, and we have different clients that leave Gainesville and they go to Seattle, and they still use us for printing. So we've evolved over the years. We've been larger, we've been smaller. We've had locations outside of Gainesville in Tampa and Tallahassee. We sold those off to our minority partners back in the early 2000s, 2001. And that's at the same time we created our employee-owned company. So since then, we've focused on Gainesville. We've had as many as 5 locations in Gainesville. We now have 2 locations. We had 5 smaller locations. And then with the increase in the size of the production equipment and that type of thing, we needed more and more space. And we decided to concentrate our assets in 2 places because you didn't have to be on every street corner anymore because of electronics and email and ordering portals and that type of thing.
Perfect. Could you tell me a little bit about how the business is employee-owned? Why did you decide to do that?
Sure. So my father founded the business back in the early 60s, and he had a real interest in employee ownership for about 7 or 8 years before we converted it to an ESOP. He passed away in 2000, and so at that point, up until that point, we didn't have the right census in the sense that they do evaluations, your accountants and attorneys do evaluations to see, is this a good fit? And we didn't have enough long-term employees at that point in time to make it work. So once he passed away, an attorney that we work with that knew my father very well, he contacted me and he said, hey, it might be time for us to revisit the ESOP idea. ESOP is Employee Stock Ownership Plan. And it's something that was put together by Congress back in the mid-'70s. And the idea was that so domestic companies could better compete with foreign entities and have more, I guess, a more solid base, if you want to call it that. So in our investigation, one thing I did learn as we prepared to do this was you can't fix a bad company by just throwing ownership at people. And fortunately, we didn't have a bad company. We had a good company. We had some long-term people even at that time. So the original interest was proposed by my father, and after he passed away, we revisited it. We realized we had the right census at that point in time, and so we pursued it. And the main goal, there was 2 main goals really. We wanted to make sure that we rewarded the people that had been with us for so long, that had helped us build the business. We didn't want something to happen to my brother and I, and then find out that somebody's father-in-law showed up and decided to, I'm going to run the business now. And because the people that built it deserve to own it. So now there's a clear path to, as far as succession. Should we retire or should we pass away or whatever the world is? Everybody knows that it's all taken care of legally. It's not some faint promise out there. And so it's all in place, and there shouldn't be a big issue as far as, you might have to replace some of what we do, but for right now, it's all in place. And since then, I think it's interesting. I think it has helped in recruiting people because everybody is fascinated by how does this company employee owned? And the way you own stock in the company, you earn it, is you don't buy it, you don't get any options to buy stock. But as you stay in the company, after 2 years of being in the company, you're awarded your first round of stock. And then over the next 5 years, you get more and more stock. And it's based on the number of years you've been here and your income and those type of things. And then when you leave, we buy the stock back from you because the only people that can own stock in the company are current employees.
Makes sense.
And you can take that money and you can put it into a tax-deferred account like a 401k or something like that, or an IRA.
That's wonderful. I know that loyalty to the employees is very important. You've told me previously that the average tenure is 14 years.
Well, I did a new study, and we've had a number of new hires this year. We've hired about 8 new people. So that brought our number down quite a bit, but it's still about 10 years now, even though we have all these people that have only been here 4 months and 5 months and that type of thing.
Would you say that's the reason that Renaissance Printing has survived when so many other Gainesville businesses have not?
It has a lot to do with it. It has a lot to do with it, but also I think one of the reasons that we've survived, and I can point to actually a Tuesday back in the mid-'80s that I decided to stop focusing on being a business person, if you will, and decided to focus on keeping our clients and our coworkers happy and making sure they have what they need. And I just started pouring all my energy into that. And things worked out. They worked out very nicely. So it sounds kind of like I read it in a book somewhere, but I just had this revelation. We weren't successful right out of the gate. It took us a long time to be successful. But I think also one of the reasons that we've been around as long as we have been is the fact that we take business very seriously. I don't have a lot of hobbies. I'm what I call a reform type A. And in my type A years, I was able to learn enough and teach enough so that I could take my type A down a notch a bit, and we could still make progress.
Did the pandemic affect the company? I know it led to a lot of other closures here in Gainesville.
It affected us tremendously. It still has an effect on our company. So when you say a lot of businesses closed in Gainesville, a lot of those businesses were our customers. Wow. So we lost those customers. The University of Florida closed for a significant period of time. They're a large customer of ours. We actually had to petition the city to be deemed an essential business so that we could stay open in some form or fashion. So we were able to petition that. And actually how we ran Renaissance Printing, we were told we had to lock our front doors. We installed the doorbell, and we had to go meet with customers on the front porch, on the sidewalk out in front of the location. Everybody had to wear masks. We spent a significant amount of money because if you remember, in the initial stages, there wasn't even testing. So if somebody had any kind of symptoms or anything, you had to send them home. So we sent them home and we paid them because it's not their fault. And so you had a lot of payroll there. And then when they came out with testing, there was a local company in town called Sarkis Clinics, and they had 10-minute testing, 15-minute testing, but it cost $100 a piece. But we opened an account with them, and anybody who had any kind of symptoms or exposure, hey, I went to this and 3 people came down with COVID, we would send them for testing. So we spent probably right at $14,000 or $15,000 testing people over a 1.5 year period or whatever it was, to make sure that, and we did it very consistently because we wanted to follow the same protocol because it had worked for us. Because we knew that if COVID ran rampant through our company, we'd have a serious problem. And plus we didn't want everybody getting sick. So we did that. So we spent a lot of money there, a lot of money sanitizing and wiping things down with Clorox, tons of money on masks that you couldn't find. But the other part of it was, with COVID, a lot of supply chain issues came up. And a huge part of that was paper, the availability of paper, all kinds of paper. Well, we're kind of in the printing business and you kind of need paper. And so what happened was we ended up spending, a number of people in our company would spend a significant amount of their time just sourcing paper. we normally get our paper from 1 or 2 suppliers and it's delivered 3 days a week. Well, their deliveries went down to 1 day a week, plus they didn't have any paper because they couldn't get the paper either. And part of that was because a lot of paper comes from overseas and because of environmental issues and things. So the transportation part, the shipping part, all of that had gotten interrupted. So we were finding paper at Walmart and having it shipped in, and Office Depot and having it shipped in, and places, paper houses in Wisconsin. And so we had a lot of extra expense because the paper cost a lot more, plus the shipping cost a lot more, plus the time we were spending just finding it. But we also knew that if we didn't have paper, we weren't going to have any clients and we weren't going to be able to take care of customers. But in addition to that, a lot of what we did, of what we were producing, was all COVID related. It was COVID information sheets, it was signage saying COVID, this testing this way. We did the stickers for the floors, the spacing stickers, and all those kind of things. So a tremendous amount of pamphlets that explained how to do this and that. So our business kind of morphed for a while.
How has the supply chain changed over time? Since 1971?
Oh, well, let's see. Well, first of all, there's a lot more stuff. We have a lot more items that we provide for clients, so therefore we have to inventory a lot more. In fact, when we first opened up, we would use about 3 cases of paper a week.
Wow.
A week, okay? While we've been sitting here, we've used more of that in our company, now. So that's kind of where that comes from. But we have to, you have a lot more supplies, so you need more space to inventory that. In fact, during COVID, we also had to rent additional warehouse space because when you could find the paper, you needed to put it somewhere. And we didn't just have an unlimited supply of space. But so our warehouse rentals went up in addition to paper costing more, transportation, all those kind of things. So supply chain is very different. In fact, there used to be an office supply company right down the street here, and called Malone's Bookstore, way before y'all's time. And when we would need a certain type of paper, we would just run down there and buy 2 reams of that color paper and come back and run it through the machine and that kind of stuff. It was a very, very different time, very different time.
How has Gainesville changed in all the years of the business?
Gainesville's been great to me. It's been great to me and my family. I love Gainesville. I mean, I absolutely adore it. I went to school in Nashville, and when I graduated from there, I thought I wanted to relocate to Nashville. And my father said, and he was very wise, he said, look, there's 3 international airports within 2 hours of Gainesville. And he said, so for quality of life, day in and day out, you can't beat Gainesville as far as ease of getting around, transportation, safety, all those kind of things. And he said, so make your living here and go spend it anywhere you want to. So it made a lot of sense to me. Gainesville's changed a lot, and certainly in the last 10 years. It stayed kind of static for a while, but so many places, like where Renaissance Printing is, at this point in time, that used to be woods. When I was going to high school, it was just a forest. Wow. And there was a couple of roads that connected things out there, but it was just trees and dirt, stuff like that. So, but Gainesville's changed. Gainesville has, we're sitting in what is the heart of Gainesville. I mean, we're sitting in the University of Florida right now. And without the University of Florida, Gainesville would be Waldo or Stark or Williston. There wouldn't be anything here. And then, of course, we have a terrific hospital, a world-class hospital right down the street. That keeps a lot of what makes Gainesville, Gainesville. It keeps a lot of technology here, a lot of, I think Gainesville is one of the safer places to be. I found nowadays when I go places, you don't know what's safe anymore. And I don't, I'm just saying, I kind of coined a phrase, if you don't know where you are, you don't know where you are. Meaning you better be with somebody who's local who can help steer you and that type of thing. But I feel like Gainesville's a very, still has some very small town personality to it. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I like to say it's a big city with a small town feel still.
That's it.
So you said in the last 10 years you've noticed a lot of changes. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, most of those have to do with architecture. They have to do with buildings and building commercial and residential units, trying to create, and it's not just happening in Gainesville, it's happening all over the country, where they're taking commercial, putting it on the basement or on the ground floor, and then building 6- and 8-story, condominiums, apartments, and that type of thing. And it seems to me that it might be getting overbuilt at the moment because there's a lot of vacancies, and that can't be healthy in the long term. But I think it'll catch up, because I think Gainesville, again, once you discover this place, you're kind of like, well, I really don't need to live in Orlando or Daytona or Jacksonville. I can ply my trade here.
Very true. Gainesville is it's a good place centered around UF.
Yeah.
I know you do a lot of business with UF. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. We have multiple contracts with the University of Florida that we bid on a regular basis. We share those contracts with other vendors. We don't have it exclusive for anything. So you have to earn your reputation every day. And I think, I think it's one of the things that's very important about our business. We have what I call a very generic product. We always have. You can make a copy, everybody can make a copy, right? But it's how you wrap that in a level of customer service and customer accountability that I think separates you from your competitors. And again, you can go anywhere and buy a copy, but you can go a lot of places. Nowadays with technology, the quality of the output is outstanding, and for very little money, you can do that. But to turn it into something that's a book, or to do 15,000 of them, or to do a banner that's 40 feet long and 4 feet wide, all of that, that takes a little something different than what you have in your home or in your office down the hall. So we have taken, and we're not foolish. We know there's a lot of places online. There's a lot of places that you can buy what we sell. But what we've done is we've tried, again, to wrap it in a level of customer service, familiarity, because we have so many people who've been here such a long time that in our company. So our clients are used to work for 10 or 12 years. If you can send somebody an email and say, got it, do it just like last time, here's the new file. And you go, got it, and it'll be there Thursday. That's pretty neat. I wish I had more of that in my life, where somebody goes, got it, and I'll take care of it, as opposed to you have to hound people to return your emails and phone calls and those type of things. So, we try to, I think one of the things that's key in our company, and this came up during the pandemic. So I was meeting with one of our vendors, and their home office is in Jacksonville, and it's Konica Minolta. It's a very large worldwide company. And so I was trying to find information, because a lot of people forget, but everybody was really struggling during the pandemic. You're struggling for information, you're struggling for the freedom to run your business. And, we had curfews that were put in place initially, where you couldn't be open past these certain hours and those kind of things. So I was asking these representatives from Konica Minolta. They were in our office, and I said, so what are people in Jacksonville doing to overcome this? What am I missing? What have I not thought of? And that type of thing. And I said, because we're just this little old printer down here in Gainesville. And the first response he said was, he goes, well, first of all, we don't think of you guys as printers. And I was a little taken aback, because I thought, well, golly, we kind of thought we were printers, And he said, no, he said, we talk about it all the time. He said, the people in your company are problem solvers. And he said, you could be in any business. And he said that the level of competency and creativity in your company, and I'm not just saying this, I'm just reporting the news, but the level of competency is such, and these people, they work with people all over the country. And he said, we've never seen a group of people like this that just solve problems. They figure it out, they get us involved, they've got their own input, you've got input. And so I think that trickles into the level that we serve our customers at. We solve their problems. You want to be able to walk in somewhere and say, here's what I need. I don't care if it's a florist. I don't care if it's the chocolatier. I don't care if it's your accountant. You want to be able to walk in and go, you're the expert. Here's what's going on. Please take care of it. Because I have to go take care of the rest of my life, which is quite complicated. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about all of us. We have this complicated life. And it's nice if somebody can take care of that for you. But when you have to, as an example, when you have to call your doctor's office 3 times to try to get some labs sent over to another doctor so you can be at your appointment at 9 o'clock the next morning, It's a little frustrating. You would think somebody could just get your labs over there and let's call it, isn't that part of what you guys do? So we try to do what we're supposed to do. In fact, I'll let you in on a little secret. I have professed and preached in our company for decades. If you just do what you say you're going to do, when you said you were going to do it, you'll be a rock star. You'll be a superhero, because all you have to, even if you tell someone, I will call you tomorrow at 10 o'clock with the price. Even if you don't have everything put together for the price, at 10 o'clock you call and say, just want to let you know, I haven't forgotten you, but I don't have all the components together for the price, but I should have it by 3 o'clock this afternoon, and I'm waiting for one more part of the puzzle to come in, or whatever it is. So the person at 10 and 5 isn't going, did they forget me? Do I have to wait? Now they're gonna, and then you call and you leave a voicemail or what? So just do what you say you're going to do, and you can knock it out of the park.
It's clear why you're so indispensable and your customers are so loyal.
Well, thank you. We hope so.
How did online services like Canva, Vistaprint, and Shutterfly impact the business?
It impacts our business every day. In fact, it's interesting. My sister lives in town. She lives probably 1.5 miles from Renaissance, and she's in there 2-3 times a week and all kinds of stuff done. But for the last 8 years, I've gotten a Christmas card from her from Shutterfly, and I look at her and I go, okay, it's easy. She uploads the picture, she click, and she's done, and I get that. So that's impacted a big part of our business. However, it's the same thing I was just talking about. For decades and decades, we've sold a generic product. They offer the same generic product. Now, what level of service can they provide versus what we can? Because if you send the file and the file's corrupt, or the file has issues, the file doesn't bleed correctly, or whatever it might be, they're going to print the file, and you're going to get whatever it is you sent them, as opposed to we're going to pre-flight it and we're going to say, I know you want orange and blue, but right now you got orange and purple. Okay, so would you like us to make it orange and blue? And so we have that level of, nothing just goes through our company without human beings looking at it, judging it, proofing it. Now we make mistakes, but we totally own our mistakes. It's like, hey, we made a mistake, we'll redo that, it's not gonna be any charge, we'll have it to you. Even if we have to drive to Jacksonville to get more paper or more envelopes or whatever it is, I have a saying, we'll trade windshield time for production time anytime, because it gets you a chance to get ahead of the game.
Yeah, a lot of those online services, if you do have an issue, you got to call customer service, and then you got to talk to the robot first before you can get through to a person.
Right.
So would you say customer service is a big part of the business?
Oh, it's everything. It's everything. It's like I said, we could be in the insurance business, we could be in the automobile tire business. It's being a problem solver. It's taking that load off of somebody. I am very particular about the people that I use to do things with, whether it be my doctors. I've fired plenty of doctors, whether it be an attorney. And I don't say fire them, but I've moved on. I went and found somebody else. My father told me when I was very young, when I was probably 15, he said, if you have access to world-class healthcare and you don't take advantage of it, you're an idiot. So I have tried to find people that are really good at what they do in everything. We don't use the cheapest equipment we can find. We have to get good value from it. I can easily go lease or purchase less expensive equipment than we use in our company. But the doors will be open all the time. The technician will be there trying to fix it all the time. That's one beautiful thing about the progress that this industry's made, is the machines used to break down every day when I first started. And nowadays, they have regular preventative maintenance, and they stay up much longer. They can do more volume. They're significantly faster, way faster, higher quality. So that has helped, but not without a cost. There's a tremendous cost to some of these pieces of equipment and the service contracts that go with them.
Do you still use some of the same suppliers you used at the beginning of the business?
Yeah. We use Xerox. I was in contact with our Xerox representative today. Now, he wasn't my original representative because I've been doing this a long time. But yeah, I think that's one of the keys to my job. One of my key positions is maintaining relationships, partnerships with vendors. I am a great believer in meeting in person. I'm not a big Zoom call guy, and not because we have 2 places in our company called the Zoom Room, which means we go in and they're set up just for Zoom calls and meetings and those type of deals. But for instance, one of the offices for Conica Minolta, where I have a really good relationship with one of the vice presidents with KM, is in Tampa. And let's say I want to put a meeting together. I want to talk about something. Well, there's going to be 3 people from Conica Minolta at the meeting. By the time they look at their schedules and they go, well, we could be in Gainesville in 10 days. And I'll go, what are you guys doing tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock? Because I can come to Tampa, gather you guys up from down the hall, we'll have our meeting, and now I'm 10 days ahead on a decision being made or a problem being solved or something like that. So I'm a great believer in showing up. And it's important to, if I'm interviewing somebody, I interviewed somebody within the last 6 months, 8 months, and they were from Jupiter. So I just met him halfway at the rest area on the turnpike, wherever that is. And we ended up hiring him. And he just said, I was just shocked that you would actually drive to come. Well, I mean, if you're the right person for our company, why wouldn't I? It's an investment on both sides. And I think relationships are absolutely key. And if you treat a vendor like, well, they're just a vendor, I'll go find somebody else. Well, they'll go find somebody else too. We need each other in this world.
How have you noticed the technology evolve throughout the years? Because obviously the internet, digital cameras,
all of that. Okay, so
I know it's a big question.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. I have a visual for you. It's the only visual I brought. So I want to show you something real quick, and then I'll give you the broad answer. So when I first came to work at Renaissance, this was our invoice job ticket. It has the name of the customer. It has Renaissance Printing. It has these lines over here. That's where you put the numbers. And over here is where you just write up, what are we supposed to do with this for this client? And that was it. And this would sit on top of a pile of paper, and you'd start making copies and bind. It would say bind or this or that or whatever. So that was, in the beginning. So this is an invoice that we use now. And this will show you a little bit of, how complicated it is. But we also have sub-invoices for this, meaning instruction sheets that accompany this because there's more and more detail going on with that particular order. So that'll give you an idea of how things have changed. So in the beginning, there was just black and white copies. We had a copy machine. And, we had, everything was manual. You stapled things. You didn't have a clunk, clunk, clunk type of thing. Nothing stapled online. In fact, in the beginning, the machines didn't even collate. Now, if you know what collating is, right? Putting things in order. It would just spit all the, let's say you were making 7 copies of something. So you get 7 copies of page 1 would come out. Then it didn't have a document feeder. You lifted up this little rubber flap. You took the second page 2, you put it on there, you closed the flap, you push the button. So 7 more copies. Then you'd end up with a stack, let's say page 1 through 15, 7 copies of it. Then we had a board we built out of plywood that had these little slots, these little ridges around it. And you deal them out like cards. You would just deal them out and put them in order like cards. So that's kind of where we started. The beauty was, in the beginning, when my father opened this copy center, there weren't any copy centers. There was no business plan to follow. There was no Office Depot. There was nothing like that. It was kind of it's like a little cottage industry. The clever part was, you leased this machine from Xerox Corporation, which was a world-class, innovative company, had world-class service, and then you built a company around it. You got to create whatever you wanted to make around it. And so that we had to learn just by scratching and clawing and figuring out and going, oh, well, that didn't work. And in fact, those machines were so prehistoric, if you want to call it that, at the time compared to what we have now, is they came with a fire extinguisher in them. And so when the paper would jam in the fuser, it would often catch fire. You'd take the fire extinguisher out and you'd put the fire out. Then the technician would come, and part of the service, besides getting the burnt paper out of it, was he would replace your fire extinguisher. So it has changed quite a bit. The thing that's changed, I think, the most, at least in our company, is we have besides the coworkers that we have that are very, very well versed, take a lot of pride in what they do, is we have technology, we have backup technology. We used to have one copier, then we got 2 copiers. So when your one copier is down, you're kind of out of business, okay, until the guy gets there to fix it. Well, now we have, dozens of printers. I one time met with a client, and they were thinking about switching over to our company. And I said, well, I know you have a current supplier, and so why are you thinking about moving over? He said, well, every once in a while they call me and they tell me their machine's down. So I was standing in the middle of one of our places, and I just pointed, I said, so we have that one, we have that one, we have 2 of those, we have 3 of those, there's 3 more of those across the street. And I said, so if anybody ever calls you and tells you our machine's down, we're lying to you, okay? So we're very fortunate. We've built up a business that has this redundancy. I think that serves us well. And I think clients, when they come in, we actually intentionally put a lot of our production on display. And the reason for that is you don't have to have a sign that says we do a lot of stuff here. We don't hide it all behind a wall. We want you to see what's going on for the most part. And in that way you can see there's people focusing on what's going on. If you just disappear behind a wall, kind of like, well, am I next? Am I not next? And all those type of things. So, we didn't have a plan to do this. In fact, I think I told you when we met before, one of our long-term managers has been with us over 40 years. We were having a meeting about 6 months ago, and she was reflecting back on that time. And she said, back then, all we did was do, which means there was no great plan. You just did the next thing you had to do. You just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And, and it worked out.
Yeah. What kind of printing is such a broad umbrella? What kind of services do you provide?
What type of, I missed the question.
What type of printing, what type of services go under that printing umbrella? If that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. We have everything from a one copy. You can make a self-serve copy. You can rent a computer in our place. You can, with graphic arts software on it. We print everything from business cards, stationery, manuals this big, training. We burn and print CDs and DVDs. We also do fulfillment, which means that let's say you go to a website and you want to, and you donate money, we'll say to a nonprofit. But because you donated money, you get a t-shirt, okay? They're gonna send you a t-shirt. Well, the order for the t-shirt comes to us. We already have the t-shirts on stock and inventoried. And then what we do is we fulfill the order. We send that t-shirt out to you so that whatever the nonprofit, they're busy raising money. They don't have to worry about mailing out t-shirts or UPSing t-shirts out. So we do that for multiple clients. Again, that's called fulfillment. We print banners. We do wide format. We do mailings. We do surveys. We have, we do surveys for the University of Florida, research surveys. We do work for the hospital, all types of, again, stickers that go on the wall, stickers that go on the floor. We got it all. And we even do things I don't even know we do anymore. I will sometimes be walking through the building and I'll go, we did that? And somebody goes, yeah. And I go, that's great. Because again, our folks are problem solvers. They figure out ways to get done for the clients what they want done.
Do you print pictures?
Like photographs?
Yes.
We can. We have, we don't print them in the time-honored tradition, if you want to call it that. We use full-color, wide-format printers. We can print on photographic paper. It's not a real big niche for us because there's so many places you can get your picture. You just upload them, they'll be there tomorrow. And so not a lot of people think of us for doing that, but we're certainly capable of doing that.
Yes, and that's not incredibly common today anymore.
Right.
Printing pictures. How has the different formats you print and the different things you offer changed since the beginning of the business? Well,
in the beginning, we printed on black and white, and that was it. And we printed, the largest sheet size was 8.5 by 14. So it's then evolved to 11 by 17, where we can print that. Now we print on 13 by 19 because we're printing oversized sheets. They bleed off, and then we have to trim the edges and that kind of thing. The offerings have also improved as far as the types of paper. Many more coated papers, and that's because you're seeing so much more color. Color has just exploded. I mean, everything you see is color. And fortunately, we used to have a sea of black and white machines. Now we have a sea of machines that produce in color. And they produce in black and white also as a combination. But the main focus of those machines, we also have black and white machines, depending on the person's need. The other thing we produce, and we do a lot of this, is wide format color. And that can be banners, it can be signs, it can be posters. And they can be displays. When you see these pop-up displays in a convention or conference or something, we have those that we provide. We have full graphic design team that can design that from the beginning to the end. And when I came to work there, I think we had about 5 employees total, and we were open from 7 in the morning till 11 at night, 7 days a week, and and that was in the 60s. That was in the late 60s. So actually, I worked there in high school because my father run it. So that's why sometimes I reference the 60s. But Renaissance has been around since 71. So and then when I graduated college in 76, then I came in and we still had just black and white. Everything was manual. Every book you bound, every hole you punched was all manual. And there wasn't a lot of equipment. We didn't have a lot of equipment. It was out there, but we couldn't afford it.
And how many employees do you have today?
At this time, we have about 60 employees. And when we had our places in Tampa and Tallahassee, we had a total of 180. And but again, like I said, in the early 2000s, we sold those operations off, and they're both still in operation today. With our partner in Tallahassee sold her operation to her daughter and her son-in-law. But our ex-partner down in Tampa, I'm still real close to him, and we have lunch together several times a year, exchange ideas. And so he's still doing well, and he's down in Tampa, Florida.
That's lovely. What are those businesses called?
The one in Tampa is called Pro Copy, and the one in Tallahassee is called Target Print and Mail.
Okay. And I lost my train of thought all of a sudden. Sorry. How have you managed to retain and even grow the company when so many things are not manual anymore? You don't need people to be punching the holes.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with us taking on new responsibilities. We got into mailing about 18 years ago as part of a transition because we saw a lot of things were going away. There's been a huge transition in the course notes business. For decades and decades, we would do custom course materials for the University of Florida, Santa Fe. We still do it. We still offer the service. But so much of it has gone to the internet. You just download it over there, which is interesting because, for instance, in 1991, there was a Kinko's versus Basic Books lawsuit, and it had to do with Kinko's violating the copyright law. So we've been in some form or another been getting copyright permission since the late 70s. We put in and once this lawsuit came about and everything, we have a full-time copyright department. At one point with our out-of-town locations and everything, we had 4 full-time people that just took care of getting copyright permissions. Well, when the course note business changed because you can put it online and you don't have to get permission, because each person just downloads it and they have decided not to chase that. So that business has changed. But we've also, 20 years ago, you didn't have wide format printers. It wasn't like you were printing a poster. Just the other day, we did 50 posters and 50 dry mounts and frames and all kinds of things like that you never would have saw in our company 20 years ago. So the mailing, the wide format, the fulfillment, the database acquisition, where if you want to reach every dentist and doctor within a 4-mile square radius or whatever, we can get you all their addresses and that type of thing, and you can send that solicitation directly to them, or it can be people with incomes about this, or college graduates, not college graduates, all that type of thing. So we got a lot going on. We keep offering, and then not only that, but we have clients that say, "You already do all this for us. Can you do this for us?" And we go, "Sure," and we figure out how to do that. And that's part of where some of our fulfillment comes in, because we have clients that they try it themselves and they go, "Yeah, this isn't what we do." And see, I think it's really important to do what you do best and pay other people to do what they do best.
So you would say the amount of responsibilities the company has grown exponentially. since it's
The
opening?
amount of responsibility.
The amount of services you offer?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The amount of service has grown. The variety of businesses that we serve. And, but I keep going, I will go back, when you say the responsibility, having so many long-term dedicated people. One of the things that I say is, and I try to coach this when we talk about employee ownership, because with ownership comes responsibility. And for the most part, I wake up scared to death every day of my career, because I got to keep it going. Everybody kept it going, and they work hard and they're smart. But COVID has changed the buying habits of many people. And you got to be able to be fluid. You've got to be able to figure things out and move, but you can't go there too quickly. And the reason I say that, and maybe you can, but in my experience, I've never taken the company to what I call the bleeding edge of technology, because a lot of people try things and they're just a little bit too before their time. And so we're very fortunate, because a lot of technology shows up in Chicago and Atlanta and LA, Dallas, before it shows up in little old Gainesville, Florida. So you get a chance to go see, and this is that showing up in person. So I've been to Dallas to go to print shops. So I'd go to Atlanta and tour. In 1978, I jumped on an airplane, flew to Atlanta, rented a car, spent the whole day just knocking on doors, going to print shops and go, hey, do you mind if I walk around and get some ideas from you guys? And everybody was so cordial and nice, and come on in, let me show you what we have going on. We have some ideas in our company we still use today that I learned in 1978 in Atlanta in one day. So I just think it's important. There's an old saying, much can be observed by just watching. And so you pay attention, you look, you talk to people, and you certainly don't think you know it all, because you don't.
So that's how you've stayed on top of the industry, by going to those big cities.
Well, no, and I don't know that we're on top of the industry. Okay, I don't think we are. I mean, in the sense that we're on top of the part of the industry that we want to be on top of, in the sense, and it sounds arrogant to say on top of. I was just using your word, and I was trying to find the answer. Again, we struggle every day. It is some days are smooth and everything's great, and nobody's pulling their hair out. And then there's other days where you really got to struggle, and you got to answer a lot of questions, and you got to figure things out. It's like, for instance, when the internet goes down. About, a month ago, somebody cut the fiber optic cable that feeds one of our places. And that was fun for a little while. You don't realize how much, you realize it, but you just take it, you think it's like your refrigerator. It's just going to be cold all the time until it's not. And everything starts going bad in your refrigerator. So, like I said, I don't believe we're on top. We're extremely good at what we do. We really are. And I have to give credit to the people that actually do it for being that good. And they've been, when you've been doing it as long as a lot of the times they have, the enthusiasm, the passion for it, it can fade. But I think they feed off each other. They're very supportive of each other. In the sense of if you're ill, or if your child is ill, or your mother's ill, or something's going on, your dad needs somebody to take them to the doctor, go take care of what you have to take care of. We'll take care of it here. And we know that in the future, you're going to cover for somebody when they're taking care of something they have to take care of. And it's unspoken. It's all you have to do is say, I have to, and say, okay, we got it. And I applaud that. I think that's fantastic, because I know that burden falls on a number of different people. During COVID, there was a number of times when we were very low on coworkers because people were homesick. And again, that was even before testing. We'd send people home just because we didn't even know if they were ill. So, but the other people just, we got it. We'll take care of it. Hey,
how has your role within the company changed?
Wow. Okay, so... What, pardon? Oh, I thought you said something. Okay. So my role, I was hired as an entry-level, making copies kind of guy. Ringing the register, asking people what they wanted, filling this little thing out. I went from that to, I did production. I ran copiers. I became the assistant manager of our first little place called University Copy Center. Then I became the manager of Renaissance Printing, which was right across the street. And I ran that place by myself, 8 to 6, Monday through Friday. My brother was going to the University of Florida at the time, and he would bring me a Coke for lunch, and that was my lunch. So he'd bring me a Coke from a little minute market that was over there. It's not there anymore. And so I've run printing presses. I've been our printing plant manager. I've run the darkroom. I've billed people from the office. I have, trying to think what year it was, but it's sometime in the, my wife asked me this question about, I don't know, 5 or 7 years ago. I was coming down the stairs and I was getting ready to go to work. And that was back when I wore a tie and I was tying my tie. And she said, "How long have you been Bob?" And I said, "Since about 1982. So I've been Bob since about 82. And I knew exactly what she was talking about. But my role has transitioned tremendously. I've spent a lot of years training people, a lot of years having meetings. I learned a lesson about 12 years ago. We used to have manager meetings and we used to have sales meetings. And at one point I just said, we're not doing this anymore. Because they're a large waste of time. Because I still have meetings, but I have meetings with you two. I have meetings with these three. If it has to do with IT, I have meet with those people. But to get everybody in a room and to start talking about stuff, it's a huge waste of time. I have a lot of what I call stand-up meetings, or there's a saying, no chairs makes for short meetings. So I have a lot of, catch you in the hallway. Got a minute? Yep. Okay, great. I like to give them an update on hiring or something. So speaking of hiring, so that role really hasn't changed much. I've been interviewing people in the company for almost the entire time I've been there, for probably 47 years. And I still do all the first interviews in the company. And if I think that person should continue in the process, then we do a thing called a tryout. We pass them along, you get input from some other people, those type of things. But I'm a great believer. It's like I said, people, you can throw all that equipment in the trash as far as I'm concerned, push it out in the driveway. It's the people that make a business go. And so I spend a lot of time coaching, teaching. I still am the lead person on the negotiations with equipment and paper and those type of things. Part of that is because I have all those long-term relationships, although I now include more people in some of those meetings so that they can start to build that relationship also and understand the process that goes into those things. But yeah, I used to, my whole day, it used to be, how much can I produce? How many books can I staple? How many can I fold? How many that? And now it's basically, how many people can I get prepared for the rest of their day, tomorrow, a year from now, that kind of thing.
I know you told me last time we talked that 47 years ago, the manager of University Copy Center told you that you can never save this place, and you said, "Watch me."
That's true.
I'd love to hear about how you did that.
How I did that?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the quick backstory to that. I didn't know you were going to bring that up. So, I worked with my father out of college for 6 months, and I had a lot of responsibility because of my last name, but I didn't have any authority, and I shouldn't have had any authority. I was just this brand new guy, and but a lot got dumped on me, and the people in our company at that time weren't as dedicated and as passionate about getting it done right and those type of things. So a lot fell on me. So I gave him 6 months notice, and I went back to Nashville, and I interviewed with companies up there, and but I had gotten a traffic ticket just before I left, and I had come back to go to court, and my court date was December 22nd. Of course, Christmas was a few days later, so I was spending time with the family. I mean, my father and I didn't have any falling out or anything. I just said, I don't have any authority, so I can't do this. And anyway, so when I came back for the court date, he took me to lunch and he said, "What will it take for you to come back?" And I used some bad words and stuff, but I said, "Well, somebody has to be the bad guy." And he said, "Okay, you can be the bad guy." So after that lunch, I went back to, at that time, University Copy Center, and our manager, who ultimately became our partner in Tallahassee, she was standing there, and I said, I'm coming back. And she said, you can't save this place. And then I said, watch me. So the way I do stuff is I just throw myself into it. My brother is a huge contributor to what's gone on in the history of the company. My brother is very different than I am. We have the same values. We once took a psychological test in a seminar or something. We have very much the same values, but we have very different personalities. In fact, it's kind of surprising because the way I met my wife was she worked with my brother's wife, and she said she liked my brother so much, she said, does he have a brother? And so that's how I met my now wife, but which is really odd because he's not a lot like me as far as personality is concerned. But again, our values are much the same. So to be honest with you, the first thing I did was I fired those people that weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. I didn't do it. I didn't just walk in and fire 4 people. When you only have 8 people working for you, kind of hard to fire everybody. So I, meticulously, methodically interviewed people. I met with people on Saturdays and at nights so that people would know what was going on. And I found some people, and I got rid of the people that weren't contributing. And then we just started working and working and working and working and working and working. Finally, again, it was, I've been married 30 years now, but my wife, I think I'd been married about 7 or 8 years at the time. And I was still working half days on Saturday and Sunday. So at that time, 98, I'd been working 22 years and I was still working 7 days a week. And my wife said, you don't have to work Saturday and Sunday. It's just a habit. So my wife coached me and said, it's okay if you just stay home. And I will tell you, for the first few months, my Mondays were really rough because I wasn't able to catch up. But she coached me and taught me how to only work 5 days a week for the most part. But, I do check in on things. I pop in. I'm available. But I think it goes back to having the right people and recognizing that if you're not the right person, you need to go. And there's a lot of people. I think it's very key that you have somebody in a company that is willing to say no. You can have a lot of meetings. You can have a lot of people that show up and they say, we should get a brand new blah, blah, blah. And I've done the study and I've got this and here's the lease and here's the and all this kind of stuff. And you got to look at it and you go, not the right time. This isn't the right time to do that. We still need to maximize the impact of these other pieces of equipment we have. And we're not doing that yet. And so, I think that's kind of how it's done. I wish I could tell you, like in a little nutshell type of thing, 3-page article. But I will tell you, again, I go back to my brother. It was funny because his wife asked him one Friday something like, so what are we doing this weekend? He said, I'm working with Bob. And she said, why is that? He said, if Bob's working, everybody's working. Because I would just go, okay, here's what we're going to do this weekend. We're going to improve this. We're going to build that. We're going to move all this stuff around and make it more efficient or whatever it would be. And like I said, he's been by my side for decades and decades. In fact, one more thing I'll tell you about him. In the company, and people know this, but I've called him for decades. I call him my Solomon because he's got this great heart, super intelligent, great memory. And sometimes if there's a difficult situation, I'll just go in his office, close the door, and go, okay, I need your help, Solomon. And he goes, what do you got? I'll tell him a difficult decision or some kind of choice we have to make or whatever it's going to be. And he'll walk me through it, talk me through it, give me his insight, the answers to the questions. I wrote all my answers, and then I handed it over to him, and he wrote all his answers, and he had some great insights. So part of what you're hearing is some of his thoughts.
That's beautiful. What is his role within the company?
He is the vice president, secretary. Okay. He works in the office, and I always say, so we have a super strong team of people in the office, and it's very important that all the reports are done, sales tax reports, sales reports, all the stuff gets to the accountant, bills get paid, money comes in, billing, all of that, super critical. And I am so fortunate because the folks that we have doing that are aces. And so Tammy's been there 34 years. Kim's been there 26 years. Tiffany's been there 18 years. Victoria's kind of a newcomer. She's been there about 8 years. And then we have Marie, and who's been there only a year. And then, my brother's, been with the company. So it's easy to do what I do when you know that's getting taken care of. But if you have to run over there every day and say, did that bill get paid? Did this bill? Did we get the money in? Did you ever? Yeah. But they're taking care of it. The I's are dotted, the T's are crossed. And, so that's important.
Yeah.
That gives me the moment to sit here with you.
And we are very lucky for that. Would you say that in the business, family and work are connected, not just your blood family, but I know you called your employees your family?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, kind of goes back to what we talked about a little while ago. So my father started the company. My mother worked in the company. My mother made copies and collated stuff. My sister did. When she'd get out of school in high school, she'd come into work, and then I worked there, of course, that kind of thing. So that's that family side of things. So yes, and again, the appreciation I have for my brother's contribution is, it's just, I can't tell you how much. But let's take it another step. I don't know that a lot of people recognize this, but you spend more time awake with the people you work with than you do with your loved ones, your family. And so, yeah, and it goes back to what we were just talking about a few minutes ago. We've got it. You take care of this. We got that. One of our managers just told me yesterday. She said, I'm always telling my friends that if your kid's sick, bring your kid to work. We'll let them sit in the conference room. If your dog's sick, or you're going to take your dog to the vet, bring your dog to work, and then you can leave. You don't have to go home, pick up your dog, and if you need if you've got friends coming in town for 3 days, take the 3 days. We got this, and all those kind of things. So that was super important. And I will tell you, this sounds a little self-serving, but I think it's important. We've talked about COVID a little bit. I'm almost 70 years old. My brother's 65 years old. And during COVID, he and I would meet on a regular basis. And we weren't concerned about losing our jobs. Again, we're almost 70, 65 years old, that kind of thing. And but we were incredibly concerned about everybody else losing their job. And it was a huge struggle. It was a lot of unknowns. And I can't thank everybody enough for everything they did to step up and do what they needed to do to get us through. But it's funny because the connection, it's interesting. I learned so much from the people I work with. I learned so much about, everybody has a journey, everybody has a story. And the story they have oftentimes has nothing to do with what you think their story is. And, I find it important to ask people, what's going on, how are they doing? And, you can notice in people when there's something awry, when I don't mean business-wise. You can just tell when their demeanor changes, their eye contact changes. And so I think it's important to not go, well, I don't want to get into that. I'm just going to walk on by. I think it's important to turn around and go, is everything okay? And so if that's family, then yeah, we've got a pretty cool family.
That is absolutely lovely. So back to your father. I know he had several other businesses like the pharmacy and the record store. Why do you think that Renaissance Printing survived when those other businesses didn't?
Well, I'll tell you, because I thought about this quite a bit when you asked the question. So there are already pharmacies and drugstores all over the country, big ones, small ones, everything like that. There were already record stores everywhere, okay? But there weren't copy centers. That was a whole new animal. And again, you could lease this machine from Xerox. They would service it for you. But then you got to build this business around it with whatever you thought it needed to have. So you got to be innovative, you got to be an inventor, you could be, and so much of it was manual that as long as you were willing to put the work in, you could get the things done. I remember I was home from school and my father, we're having dinner the night before, and he goes, or that night, and he said, I'm going in early to work tomorrow, do you want to go with me? And I went, sure, what time are we going? What time are we getting up? He goes, 4. I was like, okay. And I learned that one time you can get so much done between 4 and 8 o'clock in the morning that became a pattern for me for a long time. I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning when I got into my job. I would get up at 4 o'clock, and by the time 8 o'clock came and people started coming in, you're like, oh man, I'm not going to get anything done the rest of the day, because you're going to have people bob, 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 that type of thing. But nowadays, people don't go bob, 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 because they already know. They've already learned that. They learned the first time when they said bob. I gave them an answer, and they took care of that. But I learned the power of, early is not 15 minutes. Early is not a half an hour. There's somebody told me one time, they said, to be successful in business, if you're looking at your schedule, there's a 5 and a 9 in it, but it's not 9 to 5. And I also think, and this I think is key. They say you read this, find something you love doing, you'll never work a day in your life. I can honestly tell you that on less than 2 hands, the number of days I haven't felt like coming to work in 48 years. It's been challenging, it's been fun, it's been rewarding. Doesn't mean at the end of the day, I'm so sure I'm going to come back the next day. But then I just decide, you know what, I'm just going to go fix what made me crazy today. And fortunately, I've been able to have the ability to try to fix most of the things that make me crazy. And again, coach other people to fix the things that, that make them crazy. But yeah, I'm super fortunate. I've gotten to be all kinds of things in this business. I've gotten to be a people person, a numbers guy, a machine person, a builder, an architect, all kinds of fun stuff. So, no regrets.
That's wonderful. I think a lot of people wish they had a career like that.
Well, and that's the advice I give people. I don't know if we talked about this or not, but I try to engage with people at Walgreens and Publix and those kind of things. And, I'll go, hey, how you doing? How's your day going? And anybody who answers me, well, in 20 more minutes, I'll be doing great. I tell them, I go, look, I'm going to give you some advice. You need to quit this job. And I say, don't quit it before you have another job, but you should quit this job, because you're not doing yourself any favors. You're not doing your managers any favors. You're certainly not doing me any favors, because you don't want to be here. Go find something you like to do. But again, don't quit until you have another source of income. And if you pay attention, if you start doing that, hey, how's your day going? You're going to find that 40% of the people are just looking at their watch, just trying to get out of there, But if you find, don't wait until you're 45 to go, I'm going to go be figure out how to, whatever that is you want to be, and then try to get there as quick as possible. I've told people in interviews before that I thought would be very good employees for us. I've told them that don't go here. They go, I want to be a nurse. Well, then go get a job at a hospital. Get in that environment. Start making connections at that time. I had a young lady I was interviewing one time, and I was getting close to offering a position, and I said, do you have any concerns? And she said, well, I'm a little conflicted. And I said, why is that? And she said, well, I was just offered an internship helping to restore the Sistine Chapel.
Wow.
And she goes, well, it doesn't pay very much, but they do pay for my transportation and my housing. I said, this interview's over. You need to go take that internship. You'll have an experience of a lifetime. You'll meet people that you might know for the rest of your life. And I said, I'm not going to hire you. You need to go right now and accept that position. She said, well, that sounds like a good idea. So go and be out of here. She'd been offered it the day before, and she was still thinking about it. Well, I think I always say, take it from the gray-haired guy. If somebody had offered me that when I was 22, I'd be all over it. But anyway.
That's amazing.
So, you'd be surprised how many people you meet. That's one of the reasons I still interview people. It's a great education for me. It is a tremendous education for me, because let's say I do hire that person. Then I know their journey. I know they came here from Wisconsin because their grandparents are getting older and they needed some help. So I know, what's in their heart. And I know 3 years later that maybe one of the grandparents passed away. But I also know they're putting down roots, and I also know they're engaged. And I also, all these kind of things. And that just helps me communicate. It helps me appreciate who they are and maybe help them with their needs.
That's wonderful. Just something you said that made me think of a question. You mentioned how there's pharmacies and record stores all over the country. How would you say that chain businesses have affected Renaissance printing or smaller businesses like it? And if so, are there any printing chains?
Oh yeah. You've got FedEx Office. Okay. You've got Office Max, Office Depot, Staples. They all have printing, copying. They print wide format. And all of those places I just mentioned, they also have large production centers, like for instance in Atlanta, FedEx has one. So they can take in really large orders, send it to Atlanta, send it electronically, gets produced, and then gets shipped back to wherever it is to the customer. It can be delivered, or the customer can do it. So they have a tremendous amount of firepower. So yes, and plus there's a lot of local competition, although there's a lot less than there used to be. In the mid 80s, there were about 32 companies in Gainesville that either were printing, copy centers, or sold course notes. And now we're down to about 9.
Wow.
So, a lot of it, this business isn't for sissies. I mean, this isn't some easy kind of thing where everything's custom made. You don't just put a barcode on it, scan it, and they made it somewhere else. You take raw materials every day and you make something with it. And I think it's one of the reasons that a lot of people if they like what we do, they love what we do because they like making stuff. They like, at the end of the day, I didn't just file a bunch of papers or pass a bunch of people through my office, send them somewhere else or here, whatever. They actually created something. And a lot of times our clients are really appreciative. They thank us and send you very glowing emails and those kind of things. And that's rewarding. That's nice to see. I'm a huge believer in appreciation, showing appreciation for people.
That's beautiful. You said that there used to be 32 companies and now there's just 9 here in Gainesville. Right. Would you say that has decreased because of the chains?
I think yes. I think because of competition, the internet knocked some of it out. Been some consolidation. A couple of places, one bought the other and that kind of thing. And part of that reduction is us. We used to have 5 locations. We have 2 now. So, but our places are much larger. We've had places as small as 330 square feet, which isn't very big. That's kind of little. And we've had, currently we have about 16,000 square feet, including the office and our 2 places. So originally our company was 600 square feet. Now it's 16,000, but and it's jam-packed. Well, again, the equipment, the production equipment's 15 feet long and 4 feet wide, and you got paper, and people, and there's not a lot of dancing around in our places. There's not a lot of square footage left over.
But no more fire extinguishers?
No more fire extinguishers and machines. We got them on the walls, but they're not built into the machines anymore.
Perfect. That's an improvement. And honestly, I am down to my last question.
Okay.
So do you have any tips or advice for future business owners that want to be able to do what Renaissance has done? Survive and have such a large impact on a community?
Well, I'll go back to a couple of things I said, which is you got to love it. You got to be passionate about it. And I can tell you, I'm being very honest with you. I'm not trying to be, there's been times when it's been incredibly difficult. And if you're not willing to sign up for work, my brother and I went, I think it was 2.5 or 3 years one time, never took a vacation, barely took a day off. He just did. Like I said, all we did was do. And, we struggled. I want to say one more thing I forgot about my brother.
Yeah.
In 46 years, we've never had a fight. Never had a fight.
Wow.
We've had disagreements 100 times probably, but we respect each other so much. We listen to what each other says. We compromise, or we go with one person or the other. But most people, they can't say that. We just hugged each other in the parking lot this morning. I saw him in the parking lot, and I
nice.
told him, go have a good day. We hug each other. Anytime we see each other, we hug each other. So it's pretty cool after all these years.
That's beautiful.
But getting back to the advice to people, I think a lot of people nowadays, they think that working is returning emails or sitting in on a meeting. I had a conference call this morning with Konica Minolta, and we were talking about meetings. And this gentleman said, well, I just read this book about, which is basically don't have meetings. And I told him about how I had got rid of my meetings years ago. It's fascinating. Sometimes you'll contact a client and say, well, we have some solutions for you. We have a meeting. And honestly, they'll tell you, it's like a doctor. Well, we can meet you in 8 weeks. What are you guys doing? I mean, this might save you money. But anyway, be receptive. Be in person. I don't think the days of personal interaction are dead. I think, if anything, it separates you from other people, and being responsive. But I think, as far as a business person is concerned, very few people are going to be Elon Musk. Very few people are going to be Jeff Bezos. Try to find a lot of satisfaction in what you do. With that satisfaction, you'll find passion. Because, this is something I coach in our company, it is exciting to be excellent at something. I'm never going to be a jockey, okay? I'm never going to be a guitar player. I know I don't have that skill, okay? So I tried to find some things that I could be good at. And, I think I figured out I could be good at this. And so, but again, I don't have this great here's a little nutshell for you that here's how you're successful in business. But I think a lot of people have the misconception that it's not going to be hard work. Oh, I just had this great idea. Well, guess what? A lot of people have a great idea. A lot of people, I've had employees, and I'll finish with this. I've had employees come to me and they go, well, I want to sell real estate part-time. I'm going to take the course. I'm going to do this and this. I'm going to keep this job for my benefits. And I go, so here's the thing. You're going up against people that are working 80 hours a week. You're going to get the crumbs, if anything. They're going to get the money. You're going to get the crumbs. Because if you're not willing to put in full time and some extra, then you're going to get crushed. Because there's somebody out there that really, really, really wants it. So.
Yeah, something that really stood out to me that you mentioned last time we talked is how in the 80s, when the business wasn't doing so well and you could even cash your checks, but you were still working 7 days a week, nonstop. And that kind of dedication is very impressive. And I think definitely shows in the business.
Well, I think that's a lot of it, but I also think, well, I'll put it this way. At that time, that's how we survived. But I think I told you, I genuinely could not cash my paychecks. But it wasn't like I was doing anything anyway, because all I was doing was working 7 days a week. That's the point in time when I made the decision to just focus on the satisfaction of the coworkers and the clients. And from that moment, I think I told you it was a Tuesday, it just turned around. I just started making, you know what? Let's make sure everybody here gets what they need. And it turned out fine.
That is amazing and very impressive.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Didn't know all that again, there's no promises. There was no promises. When we talk about working 2 years straight, we knew, well, for one thing, my brother and I had this conversation after we've been working probably 15 years. The reason we got into the business was to repay our parents for everything they'd done for us. We knew that it was struggling, and we said, well, we're young, we got energy, we have ideas. And so, but we never shared that with each other. We were working together for 15 years before we came clean and said, well, the reason I'm here is, this, and the reason he's here is that. Anyway, so, I don't think you go into it. I think you better have some passion. If all you're looking for is the money, and if I was 22 and you told me that, I'd have told you, forget it, man. As long as you can get the money, who cares what you're doing? But you're going to go from being your age to my age like that. My father used to say, I went from being 38 to 62 overnight, and I get it. I understand what he's saying now.
Yeah, that's what has been your motto in life, something that's gotten you through. That's
It's changed. It's changed many times. It really has. I don't know if I have a motto, you know. I have a lot of different little sayings. At work, they call them Bobisms. And I told them to change the name. I didn't like the attention. But I really don't have a motto. I just, you know, I think, if anything, I think it's not a motto. I've mentioned it before. I think it's really important to show appreciation for people. Even if it's a simple thank you. I'm a believer in thank you notes, still handwritten, mailed thank you notes. You'd be surprised how few of those people get. So when you send one, they notice, you know. I have a little thing. I had surgery about 20 years ago. And I sent to the office staff, I sent them a thank you note. I sent them a gift card for pizzas or something like that. And I came in for my checkup, and the lady at the front desk, I said, you know, Bob Oetter, I'm here for my 245. And she said, you're the guy with the thank you note. And I said, yeah, I did. I said, I did send you a thank you note. I said, doesn't everybody send you a thank you note? And she said, nobody sends us a thank you note. I said, well, they should. I said, I get into my appointments on time. And the surgical suite was actually in the back of the office. And I said, I didn't get an infection, so you must keep that clean. And I said, you know, my prescriptions were over there when I was supposed to have my prescriptions. So you guys deserve to be a thank you. You know, deserve to get thank you. So deserve a thank you. And I said, no, you don't have to have surgery. It could be almost anything. But so many people are going so fast nowadays and got their head down, their head in their phone and all this other kind of silly stuff that, and like for instance, one more thing about business, if you want to call it that. I keep my phone on silent all the time because that's the most important thing I have going on is right here, right now. And if I'm talking to somebody in the hallway at work, if I'm teaching a class at work, if I'm meeting with a vendor or something, have my phone buzzing or going off or dinging or whatever it is, you're probably not going to answer it anyway. And as soon as I walk down that hallway, I'm going to be looking at my phone, checking my text, and figuring out who I need to call back or whatever it is. So I just think it's incredibly distracting to do that. And when I go home, I take my phone, I plug it in, I put it face down, it's still on silent, you know, and twice a night I check it and see if anybody's on fire. And if they're not, I'll talk to them in the morning.
That is great advice.
Good.
And I am done with
You're
my
done.
questions.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your interest. I'm still surprised that anybody cares.